I'm Chef Risham Sachdeva, chef and founder of Tendril, a mostly vegan kitchen. Tendril is a mostly vegan restaurant. We call it mostly vegan because I still do a bit of dairy here and there. I still do cheese. I've always been one to honest with my guests that if I'm eating dairy, I would obviously like it on my menu because this is my menu, what I would like to eat. Tendril means like the swirls, start of something new with very strong roots, and that's what Tendril's been. Tendril started nearly 5 years ago now. We started off as a pop-up supper club. I've been an avid meat eater pretty much all my life, and in January 2019, I decided to give up meat for a month. I took the Veganuary pledge. The idea was to challenge myself as a chef, see if I can come up with really interesting vegan, vegetarian dishes. Because meat, you cooked it all your life, you've sort of eaten it. Once you get a hang of it, it's there, it's simple, right? You understand the nuances of it. But with vegetables, and specifically if you don't want to use any dairy products also, it becomes a little more challenging, and which I was really keen on getting on with. So did that, and we started with pop-ups, supper clubs. I was cooking from home, inviting friends over, kind of trialing out dishes. Until COVID hit, we were pretty much kind of doing really small scale. The entry point was a bit restricted, so we were trying those things out. So we were essentially pop-up till beginning of COVID, and when that hit, the lockdown hit, because we were small and we were quite agile, so we had to pivot to delivery boxes really quickly. And fortunately, we got really good press behind us, and people started to, order a fair bit of deliveries from us. That happened. We ran that for nearly 12 months. It was a good correction waiting to be happening. In a lot of places, kind of everybody was at the same level. The competition was a bit controlled. We didn't know what to do and how to perform, and just kind of finding the best way out of that, the whole situation. So delivery boxes kind of gave us a really good insight on how this product could potentially look like. Ran that for good 12 months or so. And then we found the current location we're in, again as a pop-up. Now, being in the neighborhood where we are, it comes with a good price tag. So just in order to fulfill that dream, we started a crowdfunding campaign that was done with Cedars about 2-3 years ago now. The idea was, because we were trying to build a community of engaged people who would either keep coming back to us all the time, or keep ordering the delivery boxes from us. And the opportunity was also for them to get involved in the business and just kind of help us grow and grow with us at the same time. So we did that raise. We were looking to raise about 150,000. We were very lucky. We achieved a target in 23 hours, and then we finally closed the round at a 200 figure with about 167 investors on board. So once that round was complete, we were already in this location as a pop-up for 6 months, and we kind of felt like this location's working out for us. People are coming back. It's quite accessible. It's quite central. So we signed the permanent lease, did the renovation, and now here we are, running this from last 1 year as a permanent site. Being very fortunate, we just managed to open our second site also, but that's a different concept. It's still part of Tendril. It's called Cafe Petiole. It's very highly bakery, baked goods driven. Again, all mostly plant-based in that sense. I feel, the London city has some great bakeries on offer. You could go out for breakfast and lunch and you get amazing options. But specifically plant-based, there was still a little bit of, there's still some hit and miss, and we thought there was really good potential to kind of squeeze that in and just create something interesting in that sense. So as a young immigrant starting out in a new country, I really wanted to sort of absorb and understand and sort of really build my foundation on cooking, and wanted to learn various styles. So, starting from really classic French to get your understanding of how the cooking should be, what's right, what's not right. There's few things you really want to go out and experiment all out with, but some things you just don't want to mess around with, you just want to keep them as it is because they're absolutely so good, and you kind of have things, derive from there as opposed to changing them. So, different places give me an insight on what could we potentially do with an ingredient in terms of extracting the best flavor, however still not taking away from it totally. So you still have that, you're still doing sort of justice and being honest to it, and at the same time being honest to your guest also. Working with Robin, it was really, really good because the way he approaches food is incredible. He just kind of keeps it really simple, but that dish will leave a lasting memory, and you would want to keep going back for that particular dish, or that particular flavor, that particular texture. So just kind of bringing the seasons on a plate, bringing, being as local as possible and being as honest on the plate was something that I really got excited about. My cooking style, obviously, I think it's varied a fair bit now. I feel the whole cooking style has definitely matured in the years I've worked in different places. There's no arrogance on the plate. It's just really simple, honest plate of food. What I would like to eat every day, that's what kind of stay on the menu pretty much. Cooking with vegetables which sort of are maybe towards the end of the season, or maybe you won't be able to get hold of them. I always believe that it's as chefs we get really emotional with dishes. There's this particular dish I really enjoy cooking, and I know that my diners are gonna genuinely love that all the time. But withdrawing from that thought is really important so that you make room for new. Preserving is obviously something that you can really, really put your head towards. Vegetables preserve really nicely. If you have the right techniques, if you want to really showcase, let's say a particular this beetroot dish I really enjoy, and this flavor, the earthiness that comes from it, it's really gonna complement, maybe in summer as well. So find a way out to preserve it. That could perhaps be a pickle, that could be a vinegar, that could be there's some dust you have created from the beetroot so that flavor is there. So I think vegetables really, because there's so much unknown with the earth here. There's so many different vegetables and herbs you will come across, and every season it will change slightly, and you'll understand that this herb in this particular month is at its best, and that brings out the most of the flavor. Whereas if you use this particular herb a few months down the line, it's still great. It might not be as good as it was previously. So again, you want to sort of be very creative and think on your feet that, how can I make this work in this particular dish, and what's the second best replacement that can be, created, so the dish doesn't take away from your personal cooking style and the stuff you would want to do, but at the same time it does respect season. You would want to, there's always that matter of how much we want our food to travel. So there is always that conscious thinking, do I need my strawberries to travel in 1,000 miles just for a dessert to have it, or can I just use something that's locally grown, and how can I incorporate that flavor and texture in that particular dish using something more local as opposed to imported. So we work with a lot of local suppliers. There's a supplier we've been working with pretty much since the inception. They have an outlet in Borough Market. They're called Ted's Veg. I think they're a little partial towards us. They will always give us a little insight on what's definitely coming and what's going to be at the freshest in the season. So it's always been a pleasure with them, and we work with there's a lot of local suppliers in the city like Shrub Provisions. We do try and find some particular produce which you can't find anywhere else, and then there's this supplier called the Wild Room, which we always get really excited about because they do a lot of foraging and they bring out the flavors and the ingredients which are at their best, and they always, if they're not in season, they always find a nicer way to preserve it, and then that can be utilized, that flavor can be incorporated. So Ted's Veg, Wild Room, Shrub Provisions are something we kind of always get excited about. Yeah, so if you sort of focus on cooking meat dishes and you want to sort of switch or kind of expand how you would want to explore the plant-based cuisine, plant-based world, I think the first and foremost is it's simpler than what we think. It becomes tricky. You would want to use the same techniques you would use for a very expensive cut of meat. You can treat a cauliflower in a similar way and get the desired results. So don't be afraid, obviously, try it out, see what works, what doesn't. It's not necessary that recipe that this particular dish you have tried today is gonna remain exactly the same, because nature will give you some surprises. The shape will change, the flavor will change. A lot of different variations kind of make the mix slightly better and slightly challenging in its own way. So use the similar sort of principles. Don't be too worried about how is it gonna be, because you at the end of the day, you are in control. You kind of understand what your final product is going to be, and work backwards with it. So the difference in diners, in the last few years from 2019 to up till now, I think people are sort of getting a bit more aware and a bit more forgiving that the plant-based cuisine has certainly evolved. When I went vegan, or mostly vegan, 5 years ago, there were some really great places to eat out there, but they was very limited. I think people that perception was still there, that if you eating vegetarian, if you're eating a vegan meal, either that's like heavy salt, heavy fat, a fake version of something you've eaten before, or it's not going to be tasty because enough thought hasn't gone into it. But diners nowadays, they are expecting more, they're demanding more, because there is obviously a world of knowledge out there on what you could potentially do with vegetables. So living up to those expectations is definitely the key. They are becoming more aware. Worlds open up a lot more. They're well traveled. That I don't think cuisines or restaurants are somehow, like, obviously specialty is different, but I don't think restaurants are sort of pigeonholed by any cuisine anymore. You could expect different flavors and different cultures on one menu, which kind of work seamlessly in harmony, and it just kind of helps the diners expectations set right, in terms of they could potentially, if we, like, we do a tasting menu, and we call a tasting menu, I mean, try not to call it a tasting menu because it sounds too fancy. We call it discovery menu. The idea for the discovery menu is that we take you on a discovery of how would we treat vegetables, and that specifically doesn't mean that it's got to be bound by one cuisine. So diners are also open to that idea, for sure. I think the food's always, and going out to restaurants has always been an interesting activity for diners to do. So they are willing to spend reasonable money if the quality is great, if they have the good experience, all of those things put together. I think the expectations are there now. What has me got really excited about cooking these days is I think cooking now is becoming more of a relaxing sort of the hours of the day. Running this restaurant and opening the second one has there was like a week, 10 days when I was sort of a bit away from the stove and a bit away from the cooking, which I think really stressed me out. So that's more like my relaxing meditation thing. I'm gonna go in service today and I'm gonna do the prep from scratch, and it just kind of helps me out. So I think that's my mojo, if you call it, just being behind the stove there. At Tendril, we've always if I'm trying to introduce Tendril to someone, it will always be that we are helping London eat less meat. We're not saying that don't eat meat, just eat less meat. And when you decide to eat less meat, we are here for you to help you do that. And we have a menu that you'll eat and you would not miss meat, that kind of thing. So having that room there, that we're not just, it's not just for people who are on a plant-based diet. It's for pretty much everyone. It's just pretty much you're looking to kind of consciously cut down as opposed to completely giving up. That's where we sort of come in.